Hello everyone, I Kuldeep Sharma welcome you all to today's session of Daily News Analysis where we are going to look at the important news from the Hindu newspaper as well as the Indian Express. So let's start with the news for today. So the first news which has come up both in the Hindu newspaper as well as Indian Express is regarding the bill which has been cleared by the cabinet, Union Cabinet, but it has not been listed in the Lok Sabha for today. So probably tomorrow or probably in this session itself, this particular simultaneous polls bill is going to be tabled in the Lok Sabha. So there are two articles in the Hindu newspaper itself. One article is basically a news briefing regarding that this has not been done in the Lok Sabha. The other is another explanatory article where it is criticizing the policy of simultaneous election, how it is impractical and complicated. And similarly, there is an article in the Indian Express also on the same lines. Moreover, there is another article in the Hindu only, although not directly related to it, because in this context, because we are talking about one nation, one election, here the author is arguing that we should also come up with one candidate, one constituency only, rather than we have one candidate and multiple constituencies. So ये जो दो तीन articles हैं, we are going to look at them one by one. So first you have to understand the why this simultaneous polls bill have been listed in the Lok Sabha today. So everything starts, this particular billing starts from your high level committee, an HLC created under Ram Nath Kovind. I am sure you are aware that Ram Nath Kovind, who is also visible in this photograph, is the former president of India. So a high level committee was created under Ram Nath Kovind, which submitted its report in the year 2024 only. And in this report, this Ram Nath Kovind committee has suggested that we should be having simultaneous election. We should have simultaneous election for all your Lok Sabhas and Legislative Assembly together, including for the UTs with legislature. So we have three UTs which have a legislature, and I'm sure you are aware of them. Delhi is one, Puducherry is the other, and now we have the third one, which is your Jammu and Kashmir. So we have three examples of UTs with Delhi legislature. So your high level committee Ramnath Kovind actually suggested certain amendments into the constitution by which we would be able to conduct a simultaneous election for your Lok Sabhas and state assemblies simultaneously. So this is going to be the first phase in which there would be simultaneous election in Lok Sabha Legislative Assembly. But India is a unique country where we have a third tier of government also, which is basically your panchayat and municipalities. And for this purpose also, your Ram Nath Kovind committee has suggested that we are going to have simultaneous elections for all panchayat and municipalities in simultaneously after 100 days of the Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly election. So once we are done with the center and or the national and the state level elections, then after 100 days we are going to have another elections for all of your panchayat and municipalities in one go. And to implement this, they have recommended two amendments. The one amendment is the basic amendment. The main amendment is your 129 constitutional amendment bill. So whenever this amendment bill, sorry, not act, this constitutional amendment bill is going to be passed, then it's going to become some other number of constitutional amendment act. But right now it is going to be the 129th amendment bill. So after this 129 constitutional amendment bill, what would be the major change? So it is basically an introduction of a new article, Article 82A, which is going to give you an appointed date. It's going to provide us with an appointment date. And let's understand it with an example that how this simultaneous election is going to work out. So once we are done with these constitutional amendments and we have this Article 82A and other amendments in other articles of the Constitution, then let's say the next Lok Sabha election is going to be in 2020 Lok Sabha. And let's say this particular appointed date as per this 2029, this Article 82A, let's say it is 1st of July 2030. 1st of July 2030. So what is the proposed mechanism is going to be? So once we have elected our 2029 Lok Sabha and whatever state assemblies are elected, let's say before this date, 1st July 2030, all of these are going to have a 5-year tenure. 5-year tenure, and all of these, let's say this 2029 Lok Sabha is going to end in the year 2034. So let's say this is going to end, this 2024 elections or this particular Lok Sabha is going to end on 1st of April. So these are hypothetical dates only. So obviously 5 year tenure 2029 से start होगा 1 अप्रैल से 30 और 2034 के 1 अप्रैल तक इसके 5 years complete हो जाएंगे. So and all the state assemblies which have elections which are done with their election before this date of 1st July 2030, they are going to have their 5 year tenure up to 1st April. But all of those state assemblies who have elections after 1st July 2030, let's say state of Rajasthan has its election on 1st of January 2031. So by this calculation, it's going to end. It's going to end on 31st December 2035, or we, for ease of calculation, let's just say it is going to end on 2036. So Rajasthan State Assembly is going to have a tenure of 5 years, completing on 1st of January 2036. However, after this particular amendment, even the state of Rajasthan or all the states which have a election, state assembly election after this particular date, all of these are going to end on this particular date. So rather than ending on 1st of January 2036, this particular Lok Sabha or this particular state assembly is also going to end on 1st April 2024, and in the next election cycle from 2034 onwards, Rajasthan and all the states as well as the Lok Sabha is going to have simultaneous election every next year, every 5 years tenure. Okay, I hope this is clear to you all, which basically means that beginning from the appointed date, whatever is the appointed date, after the appointment date, whatever is the next Lok Sabha election cycle, for example, if this bill is through, then from 2034 onwards, all the Lok Sabhas and all the legislative assemblies are going to have simultaneous election. What about the case if there is a hung parliament or there is a no confidence motion? So in this particular case, if a no confidence motion is passed, let's say in Lok Sabha, Lok Sabha is elected in 2029 and it's going to have a period of 2034. But let's say in the year 2032, there is a no confidence motion, and let's, for ease of understanding, let's say that Narendra Modi again comes to power in 2029, and let's say this year he did not, or his party or his coalition did not had full majority, and because of this opposition leaders are able to pass a no confidence motion against Narendra Modi government in 2032. So as per this particular as per this particular law, now the next government or whatever new government is going to be created, let's say no one is able to create a government, then the next government is only going to be in office for the next 2 years because of this simultaneous election, which means in 2034 again there is going to be another election. Okay, and whenever we are done with this election, let's say your this Lok Sabha legislative assembly election are held on 1st April 2034, then after a gap of 100 days, after a gap of 100 days at least, let's say April, May, June, July, in the month of July, August, we are going to have simultaneous elections for panchayat and municipalities. Okay, so panchayat and municipalities elections are going to be there. So I'm sure you must have been able to understand why this how this particular simultaneous elections are going to be implemented. Now, also another thing which you should understand is what are going to be the advantages of this one nation one election or simultaneous election. So obviously one advantage which is being suggested, or why this particular bill has been introduced, is because it's going to reduce the cost. So there would be cost reduction because obviously you were holding one or the other elections. So if you hold them together, then obviously there would be a cost reduction. And as per certain calculation, India right now spent around 10.5 crores, uh, sorry, not 10.5 crore, 10.5 crores were spent in the first election, and now around the last election cost was 50,000 crore rupees. And by last I meant the 2019 election, the total cost. So you can see how much election expenditure has increased in India from 10.5 crore spent in the first Lok Sabha election. Now we are spending around 50,000 crore rupees, and obviously the operational cost as well as the electioneering cost of the political parties or of the candidates is going to reduce, because the same political parties are not going to spend again and again for different election. For Lok Sabha Legislative Assembly, they can have a single campaigning. Okay. Moreover, because we value our election too much, there is a model code of conduct so that there is a fair election, and the ruling party specifically do not have any advantage. So because of MCC, most of your government work is stopped. So government work is stopped. So again, there would be more continuity. Again, because MCC is not in in force for the most of the year. So for 4.5 years, there would not be any kind of MCC or any other kind of issues. There would be reduced disruptions also in specifically in governance, as well as you must have seen key from government school the teachers are on duties. Teachers have duty, election duty. All of this is also going to get stopped, and there is going to be increased voter participation also. So yes, voter participation is also going to increase because they do not have to go vote for Lok Sabha elections in 1 year, then go and vote for legislative assembly election in some other year, and then go and vote for panchayat or municipalities for a third time. All of this can be done in the span of 6 months itself. So obviously, increased voter participation is going to be there. You can directly relate it with election fatigue also, election fatigue. Okay, and apart from it, it's going to improve the election monitoring also, because again, you are going to utilize whatever number of election monitors are going to be there only for one set of election, and these they are not going to be deployed for let's say one or 2 years together at one place or the other. So election monitoring are also going to get increased, but at the same time you should also understand that there would be certain disadvantages of this particular policies, and obviously the disadvantage, the main disadvantage, it's going to impact, or it is a threat to federalism. How it is a threat to federalism? That I am not giving equal weightage. I am not considering center and state to be equal. I am trying to mold all my states as per the center wishes. Okay, because all of the states election are as per the schedules of the Lok Sabha election. Everything is in tune with the Lok Sabha election. Moreover, very importantly, why it is threat to federalism is because your regional voices or regional political parties are not going to be that dominant now, simply because Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly elections are going to be held together. In many cases, your national issues are going to overpower. The national issues are going to overpower your regional issues, because the same political parties, let's take example of BJP, let's say it is going to it's campaigning in Madhya Pradesh, and there are certain regional issues, but because national issues are also being discussed in the same rallies, most probably the voters might be more concerned with the national issues, and the regional political parties which do not have anything to offer at the national level might be facing a very big challenge. Apart from it, there would obviously be logistical challenges, because you know this, that if I conduct elections in phases, and if I conduct elections at different timelines, then obviously I can manage my logistics. But if I have to conduct a full nation election, simultaneous elections, then obviously there's going to be logistical challenge, because India is a very big country, not just in terms of population but in terms of geography and area also, and it is a very much diverse geographical regions. So again, moving all of my EVMs, my VVPATs, my election personals, everything is obviously going to be a logistical challenges. Moreover, the cost of EVMs and VVPATs, because earlier you could have used the same EVMs which you are using in the same election in the other election, because they are happening at some point of time. But now I'm going to conduct all the elections together, so I need more number of EVMs and VVPATs. And a very important something which always misses our eyes is basically there is going to be a reduced accountability. And I will give you a very good example to make you understand how it leads to reduce accountability. So you must know this, that you must have heard of this thing, that if a particular politician comes for vote, he comes to a particular constituencies, he comes to the voters and makes so many promises, and once those promises are made and he wins his election, then you are not going to see his face for the next 5 years. He never comes and visit back that particular constituency. However, currently you have your Lok Sabha election, so a politician for Lok Sabha election, different candidates are going to come and throw some promises. Then, when there is a legislative assembly election, let's say after a gap of a year or two, then again another politician of the same political parties are going to come, and then you can ask them, "Ki your same candidate from your political party had promised us this, but this has not been fulfilled." And then you would have your panchayat and municipalities election. There again, the same political parties or same politician might come and campaign for some other person. So you can see that there is accountability at three different stages in the same 5 year period. But if I conduct these elections in a span of, let's say, 6 months, then those politicians are not going to be visible for the next 4.5 years. So obviously there is going to be reduce accountability also. Okay, so these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of having a simultaneous election. Okay, so like I told you that in this context, not directly related to your one nation one election, but there is also the issue of your one candidate multiple constituencies. I'm sure you must be aware that currently if a particular candidate is there, if he wants to contest, let's say if someone is contesting in a Lok Sabha election, as of now he can contest from two constituencies. So he can contest election from constituency 1 as well as constituency 2 also. So one person can go and fight election from two different constituencies, and we have many examples. For example, when your Narendra Modi contested the election for the first time in 2014, he contested from two different seats. And currently we have example of Rahul Gandhi also, the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha right now. He contested from two constituencies, one from Wayanad and one from your Rai Bareli also. So he has also contested from two seats. And usually what happens is, let's say if he has won, or whoever has won from, let's say, constituency 1, he has to vacate this constituency 2. So he is not going to be a member of parliament or a member of legislative assembly from two constituencies. So obviously he has to vacate the second constituency, which leads to a by-election. And you know this, that a by-election as per constitutional norm should happen within 6 months. So within 6 months you need to have another election. So you can see that there is cost escalation. There is also voter apathy because they do not trust these particular politicians anymore, because they have just voted for in a particular election, being aware that he is already contesting from two constituencies. So obviously their belief in the political system also reduced. So let's look at the history of it. Interestingly, until 1996, your Representation of People Act, which basically regulates your election, till 1996, there was no limit on number of constituencies. So a single candidate could contest from five or six constituencies also. But in 1996, we amended Section 33 Clause 7 of RPA. So Section 33 Clause 7 of Representation of People Act of 1951 talks about the limit of constituencies, how many constituencies are there, limits the number of constituencies, and this amendment limited the number of constituencies to two constituencies. So now a candidate cannot contest simultaneous elections from multiple constituencies, but he can contest from two constituencies at least. Now I'm sure you are aware that what are the flaws in this particular allowing a particular candidate to fight from two constituencies. First is, yes, there is a taxpayer cost. The taxpayer has to pay the cost of elections. So whatever elections are being held in the country, whatever Election Commission of India is spending, all of this is from the taxpayers' money also. So we are losing out on it. Moreover, the political parties, your candidate, they are also spending a lot of money. And we know this very well. This is not a hidden secret that most of black money is utilized in contesting these particular election. Moreover, it has been seen time and again that whenever a by-election is held after a particular election, usually it is the ruling party which comes out as winner. It is the ruling party because, let's say you had voted for candidate one in the first election, and let's say that particular candidate has left his or her particular seat, and now a by-election is being held. So when a by-election is held, so you also know this, that in the first term, whenever this election took place, let's say BJP has come into power. So it has been seen that in the by-election, BJP is obviously going to have some advantage, because no one wants a particular MLA or MP who is not from the ruling party, because it is obviously the ruling party who is going to give you different scheme, different benefit, because they have the power to do something from the political parties. Moreover, another flaw in this particular case is that there is now less of interest of voters in a particular election. So voters have less of interest in an election because they do not trust it. And here this author has given example of the recent Wayanad election, that when there was the first election, there was 70% voter turnout, but now it has reduced to 64% voter turnout, because at least 6% of people believe that there is no point in going to vote now. Okay, so there is distrust in politician, and obviously here I am keeping the politicians interest, because there is no other interest apart from politician interest being served over the voters interest, because I'm not concerned about the voters here, I'm concerned about the politician. But at the same time we have certain advantages also, because it provides a safety net for candidates who might be targeted by opposition parties. So some a very good candidate might be targeted by opposition parties. They might, all of them might come together, and they might use such tactics to defeat a particular a deserving candidate. At the same time, it also opens up space for technocrats, basically, who are not that skilled in winning elections. So technocrats also get a chance if they are fielded from two seats. And there are very examples, many examples. For example, Arun Jaitley, the late Arun Jaitley from BJP, he lost his seat when he contested from New Delhi. And we know this very well, that he is a very good parliamentarian. He has very good knowledge of law. He was a premier Supreme Court lawyer. So he actually, his particular expertise helped the BJP in its first particular elections also. Okay, so the technocrats, obviously Rajya Sabha doors and the legislative council doors are also open for us, but this also helps these particular people also. Now let's also talk about certain global examples which have been talked about. So let's start with our neighbors. So Pakistan, currently in Pakistan still there is no limit. So you can see, the more mature a democracy is, there is lesser of multiple constituencies being allowed. So Pakistan, I cannot consider it as such a mature democracy. So there is no limit, and the example is a very recent example has been given of Imran Khan, who contested from 5 seats and then vacated 4. So you can see there were elections in 4 seats because a single person has won from 5 seats. So, but at the same time, you can see that this is an advantage, or this shows democracy, that just because you are not allowing candidates from his political party to contest, he himself contested from 5 seats, and people from 5 constituencies has shown faith in that particular candidate. Another example is of Bangladesh. Bangladesh currently allows a particular candidate to contest from 3 seats since 2008. Before 2008, there was no such limit. But when I talk about other countries, specifically your matured Western democracies, UK has abolished multiple constituencies since 1983. It was banned in 1983, and same is the case with other European Union countries also. There, a particular candidate can only contest from a single constituency only. So what are the steps which has been suggested by the author in this particular case? So the steps are: first, let's amend 33 clause 7 and simply remove the limit, not remove the limit, but put the limit at a single constituency. And another suggestion which has been provided, that cost of election can be bore by that person who has basically vacated the election, to discourage such kind of behavior. And rather than having by elections after 6 months, let's have these by elections after a year, so that the voters have more time to understand the politics behind all of these by elections also. And even the opposition candidates who do not have that much money, they also have the money again to fight the next election in after a year. So it's very difficult to get the money to fight a election in within 6 months. So this is also going to be this would also allow a level playing field for the other candidates also. Okay, so this is another issue. Let's move to the next issue. Does POSH Act apply to political parties? Here's what to know. So I'm sure you must be aware of the full form of POSH Act. So POSH Act actually stands for sexual harassment of women at workplace workplace prevention, prohibition, and redressal act. And this came in the year 2030. Why I've written the full form? So in case you are reading this particular act, POSH Act, always try to remember the full form of these act, because these are the kind of question which are usually asked in your exam. We had example of POXO this year. The full form of POXO has been asked in the legal reasoning section of CLAT. So obviously the POSH Act can also be asked. So one thing, by just by reading the heading of this particular act, you would come to know that this particular bill deals with sexual harassment cases, but it deals with only cases against women. So the main target group of this particular act is the women constituencies, and not everyone. So men are not covered, transgenders are not covered, only women's are covered. And obviously the second thing is that it is basically talking about sexual harassment at workplace and not at any other place. So two limitations are there in this particular bill or this particular act, that it only deals with women cases and only at the cases of workplace. Now the question comes up is basically that does POSH Act apply to political parties? So this would depend on two things: who is the employer here and who is the employee here, because this act is basically dealing with workplace. And as per the definition of POSH Act section 3, it says that a workplace consists of all the public workplaces, which means the government offices, as well as it applies to private places also. It applies to contractual workers also. It applies to your temporary workers also, as well as permanent workers also. However, the issues with political parties is that there is no proper workplace in this particular case. There is no employer employee relation as such. So there is no employer employee relationship in case of political parties. And this particular argument was used in a 2022 Kerala High Court judgment. So in 2022 there was a petition in Kerala High Court where it wanted that political parties, in case of political parties also, the POSH Act should apply. But the court in this particular stated that there is no employer employee relation. And there is no proper workplace in case of political parties. Most of the members of political parties are voluntary members, and they are temporary or ad hoc also. So it becomes very difficult to implement this. Moreover, another issue is that who is going to be the employer in this particular case? Who is the employer in the case of political party? Is it going to be the leader of the political party? For example, let's take example of BJP. Is it going to be Prime Minister Modi? Is it going to be the president of the party, currently JP Nadda? Or is it going to be the treasurer of the party, whoever that person is? Or is it employer going to be at the state level? So BJP has state wings also. So is it going to be the state president, state leader, if a chief minister is there, or a state treasurer? So again, these are certain issues which Kerala High Court highlighted in its particular judgment. So let's understand the case of political party. So because most are voluntary and temporary workers, prospective applicability can still be applied. If I say that yes, employees, because even though they might be temporary or contractual, they would still come in the they would come inside the POSH Act, because these temporary or contractual workers are also part of the POSH Act. In case of employer, we can simply refer the party's constitution. So every party must be having a constitution. So we can go through the party's constitution, and it's very simple. We just have to amend the POSH Act and just make the political party appoint a specific party functionary to be the POSH head. So that's how I can simply apply this particular act on political parties. So currently, if a straightforward question comes up whether POSH Act applies to political party, the answer is obviously going to be no, it does not apply. And I have provided you reason also, that majorly how you would define, how you would include the employees, how you determine the employees, and how you are going to uh, uh, deploy the employer in this particular case. So this is regarding POSH Act. Now let's move to the next topic. So the next topic is Israel to double population in occupied Golan Heights. So the context of this particular news is the end of Syrian civil war. And finally, a rebel group has finally toppled the government of Bashar al-Assad. And now HTS, which stands for Hayat Tehrir, Hayat Tehrir al-Sham. Hayat Tehrir al-Sham is the political party or the rebel group which has become the leader of Syria, or is going to be the ruling party, or the ruling rebel group currently holding Syrian Damascus capital. And the head of this particular group is Abu Muhammad al-Javlani. Please remember this name. This name is going to be important for us. However, you must know that one of the neighbor of Syria is the country of Israel. So Israel, which is at war with Hamas currently, is also holding a territory which is known as Golan Heights. So this is Golan Heights. This is your West Bank, and Gaza is somewhere here. This is Gaza. And Golan Heights is a territory which originally belonged to Syria, but this was taken over by your Israel in the 1967 Arab-Israel War, also famously known as your 6 Day War, because this war ended within 6 days. So 6 Day War, or your third Arab Israeli War. or June War also. This is also known as June War. So it is during the Six-Day War that Israel took over Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. It took over West Bank from Jordan, and it also occupied Golan Heights, which is in news right now. Golan Heights from Syria. So this is what happened during the Six Day War, which was obviously won by Israel, and it has taken over it. Now, what Israel has decided that it is going to double its population in occupied Golan Heights. So you can see here that Israel, going against international norms, is occupying a, a, a foreign country's territory, and uh, it's also increasing its population in these particular country also. So it is simply occupying a foreign territory in this particular case, and the whole world is quiet right now because Israel is very powerful and it has support of the Western countries basically. Okay, moving on to the next news. Listening to music helps us discover the art within. Justice Muralidhar. So this is basically a statement made by Justice Muralidhar in context of a award ceremony, which is basically the conferment of Sangeet Kala Nidhi Award. Sangeet Kala Nidhi Award, also known as MS Subbu Lakshmi, the very famous one of the stalwart of the Carnatic music. So Sangeet Kalanidhi MS Subbu Lakshmi Award this year has been awarded to T.M. Krishna, who has already been a winner of 2016 Raman Magsaysay Award given by the government of Philippines. So Raman Magsaysay Award, which is given by government of Philippines, uh, was awarded to T.M. Krishna in the year 2016, and now the Sangeet Kalanidhi MS Subbulakshmi Award has been awarded to T.M. Krishna only. Who award this particular award? So this award is given by Madras Music Academy, and this Sangeet Kalanidhi Award is the highest award for Carnatic music, which is a form of South Indian classical music, or your South Indian classical music, in other words, is known as Carnatic music. So we have two forms of classical music. In North India, we have the Hindustani music, and in the South India, it is called as Carnatic music. So North Indian classical music is Hindustani music, and your South Indian classical music is known as Carnatic music. And your Sangeet Kalanidhi MS Subbulakshmi Award is the highest award in the field of Carnatic music, which has been awarded to T.M. Krishna for this particular year. Moving on to another new scheme which has been launched, which is the Jal Vahak scheme. So Jal Vahak scheme has been launched by Ministry of Shipping. So this is a central government scheme. And what this scheme is, so this scheme basically deals with inland inland cargo transport. So inland cargo transport. So basically your river system is basically going to be used for inland cargo transportation, and we very much know this, that your cost of transportation from shipping or waterways is much lesser than your railways. It is much lesser than your roadways, and it is much lesser obviously from your airways. So this is the cost of transportation. The shipping cost is the less is the least. And in this Jal Vahak scheme, currently this has been launched at National Waterway 1, National Waterway 2, and National Waterway 16. So let's understand these National Waterway also. National Waterway 1 is basically on your Ganga River. So it is also known as Ganga Bhagirath and Hooghly. The same river has different names. So Ganga, Bhagirath, Hooghly waterways, or also it is also known as Allahabad or Prayagraj Haldia waterway. So it starts from UP and goes up to Haldia in West Bengal. Next is your National Waterway 2, which is on Brahmaputra River, and it starts from Dhubri. It starts from Dhubri and it goes till your Sadhya. Both are in Assam, and it is on your Brahmaputra River. National Waterway 1 is also the longest, 1620 kilometer long. Then we have National Waterway 2, which is basically 891 kilometer long, and then we have National Waterway 16, which is on the Barak River. Okay, so this particular Jal Vahak scheme has been launched on these three waterways: National Waterway 1, 2, and 16. With time, this is also going to be extended to other waterways also. But this particular scheme mainly deal with inland cargo transportation, which means कि आप sea को ocean को use नहीं कर रहे हो, आप inland waterways को ही use कर रहे हो इस particular case के अंदर. Moving on to the next case, why is the BJD opposing the Polavaram project? So Biju Janata Dal is a political party of Odisha, and Polavaram project is a national project of India which is located in the state of Andhra Pradesh on the Godavari river. So these are very important fact that Polavaram project, which is a multi-purpose irrigation project and dam project, is being built on the Godavari River in the state of Andhra Pradesh. In the year 2014, this was declared as a national project. So it is not a state project. It has been given designation of a national project, which means it is the responsibility of the central government to implement this particular project. So let's understand how does this Polavaram project came up. So your Godavari River is not a river, a single state river. It flows through various states. At least its tributaries comes from various states. And obviously, wherever there would be a multi-state river, there would be multi-state river disputes also. So this Godavari River is majorly disputed between Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha. And to find out a solution as per the constitution, we have made a Godavari Water Dispute Tribunal. Godavari Water Dispute Tribunal, and one agreement was signed in 1980, where a Polavaram project was suggested for irrigation purposes for the state of Andhra Pradesh. So Andhra Pradesh government was supposed to implement this particular, but because of so many opposition, so many issues coming up in this project, this has been delayed, and now it is year 2024. So now Andhra Pradesh government has decided that year 2027 to be the final year or final date of completion of this project, and this particular project is obviously going to help the farmers of Andhra Pradesh for their irrigation purposes. However, the BJD government as well as the MP government has certain cautions cautions towards the Andhra Pradesh government, because there have been no studies being done, no proper studies have been done that what is going to be the impact of this project on the land, etc., of these particular neighboring states, basically your Odisha and Andhra Pradesh, and your Madhya Pradesh. So Odisha government or BJD, this opposition party currently in the Odisha, has basically cautioned or is opposing the Polavaram project simply because that no proper studies have been done, and certain studies which have been done independently by certain IITs, they show that a lot of land is going to be submerged. A lot of land is going to be submerged in Odisha, and many tribal population living in this particular area, majorly in the Malkangiri district, which is already a tribal district, a very big tribal district, and a very poverty stricken struck district also. A large tract of land is going to be submerged, and no proper study has been done. So that's why this Polavaram project has been cautioned. For your purpose, you should know that Polavaram project is in Andhra Pradesh. It is a national project. Since 2014, it's a national project, and it is on Godavari River. And one more thing which you can remember is that the Godavari River is mainly, or dispute tribunal majorly deals with Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha. Okay, so this is a short description of your Polavaram project. Moving on to the next news from Indian Express now. So Disha Naike reaches Delhi, his first foreign trip after coming to power. So recently we had elections in Sri Lanka, and we have a new prime minister there. So we have a new Sri Lankan prime minister. His name is Anura Kumar Disha Naike. So he is a new prime minister of Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, and he has come for his first foreign trip to India only, India being the major power in this particular region. So India and Sri Lanka's history has been intertwined since your ancient time, and we our Chola dynasty, which used to rule Tamil Nadu, has been the rulers of Sri Lanka also, and we have been having a very fruitful trade relation as well as cultural and religious exchanges also so many years, because your king Ashoka, who had become a Buddhist king, actually sent his son Mahendra with the teachings of Buddhism to to Sri Lanka. So he has done that also. Moreover, India got independent in 1947, and your Sri Lanka, which was earlier known as Ceylon, got independence in the year 1948. Okay, so Ceylon became, which later became Sri Lanka, got independence from Britishers in 1948. Now we also have some violent history, because your LTTE, which was active in the north of Sri Lanka, very near to the Indian borders, and which is majorly a group of Tamilians who are living in Sri Lanka from very long time, and they were persecuted by the Sinhalese majority, Sinhalese majorities of Sri Lanka. They made this particular group. Earlier it was a political party, later became a militant movement, and then a terrorist group. And it was formed in the year 1976 by Prabhakaran. And this particular group was involved in a armed conflict between 1983 to the year 2009. In between, in the year 1987, India Sri Lanka agreement was also signed. India Sri Lanka agreement was also signed for peacekeeping in this particular area. However, this was not beneficial for India, because after this particular 1987 India Sri Lanka agreement, India sent its peacekeeping forces. So, peacekeeping forces, India peacekeeping forces were sent to Sri Lanka, and India actually lost a lot of men, and it also lost the trust of the Tamilian people also at that time. So, there were many domestic issues also being raised in the Tamil Nadu state also at that particular time. However, with time, everything improved, and now we have a fruitful relations with India. Current relations, if I talk about current relation, India is currently doing a Indian housing project, and it is constructing 50,000 houses. 50,000 houses in Sri Lanka are being built by the Indian government there and Indians there. Also, it is developing a East Container Terminal in Colombo Port. ठीक है. So it is doing that. Also, we have a open sky agreement, which means the Sri Lankan planes can always fly over Indian territory. Also, there is no problem in that. We have defense relations also, and we have a Slynex exercise, Sri Lanka Indian naval exercise, which is basically a naval exercise, and we also conduct a Mitra Shakti exercise, which is basically a military exercise. So we have these two defense exercise also, and very importantly, trade relations. And obviously, India is Sri Lanka's largest trade partner. Sri Lanka's largest trade partner is India only. So this is a short explanation of India-Sri Lanka relationship. Okay. So student, these were, I would say, the important news headlines from today's Hindu and Indian Express. I hope this initiative has been useful to you. If you have any doubt, any feedback, you can mention it in the comment box. With time, we are going to implement those. Obviously, many students have already put up their feedback into the comment boxes. We are going through them, and with time, we are going to implement those also. Okay. With this message, I would like to end today's session. Thank you and have a very nice day.